The Price of Vengeance. The Final Hours of Lance Shockley. Two lives that violently collided in the rural heart of southeast Missouri. A collision that ended more than 2 decades ago, but whose final echoes resonated in the death chamber just hours ago. Lance Shockley, convicted killer. Executed at 6 p.m. Tuesday by lethal injection at the state prison in Bonne Terre, Missouri. He was 48 years old. His victim, Missouri State Highway Patrol SGT Carl Dewayne Brown Jr., a trooper respected, dedicated, and murdered simply for doing his job. But here is where the story darkens. For 20 years, Lance Shockley maintained his innocence. His lawyers fought until the very last minute, not just challenging the evidence, but demanding DNA, testing they argued could have exonerated him. This is a deep dive into a crime of vengeance, a circumstantial case that led to the death penalty, and the haunting, final moments of a man who faced the end with his family watching, maintaining his truth to the very last breath. Please like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. The execution and the last hours. The hours leading up to the execution are a grim, structured ritual. Lance Shockley, 48, was pronounced dead at 6:13 p.m. Tuesday, October 14th, following a lethal injection at Bonne Terre State Prison. Shockley's execution was one of 2 in the country Tuesday. Samuel Lee Smithers, 72, died by lethal injection in Florida for the killings of 2 women whose bodies were found in a rural pond in 1996. In the death chamber, Shockley's head was elevated on a pillow, and he raised his head off the pillow and communicated with loved ones in the witness room to his left. A woman there appeared to try to carry on a detailed conversation with him from his soundproof room. After about 90 seconds, he laid his head back on the pillow and appeared to stop talking. There were 7 witnesses present for Shockley, 12 for Graham, and 13 for the state. The woman who was communicating with him dropped her head and stopped motioning after he laid his head back. At least 2 women wiped tears from the eyes, and other witnesses largely sat stoic and expressionless. Shockley's final visits, meal, and statement. He was visited by his daughters and a friend in the morning, according to prison officials. His last meal consisted of items from the canteen: peanut butter, 3 packs of oatmeal, water, and 2 sports drinks. In a written final statement, he said, "So also you have sorrow now, but I will see you again, and your hearts will rejoice, and no one will take your joy from you." The execution was carried out after the U.S. Supreme Court rejected his final appeals earlier in the day. GOP Gov. Mike Kehoe turned down his request for clemency Monday. Violence against those who risk their lives every day to protect our communities will never be tolerated. Missouri stands firmly with our men and women in uniform, Kehoe said in a statement. A profound emptiness. Graham's family issued a statement saying the grief from his loss has left a profound emptiness in all of us that touches every part of our daily lives. No court proceeding, nor what happened here today, can ever bring Dewayne back or heal the hole left in our hearts, it continued. But after all these years, there is some measure of peace in knowing that this part of the process is over. Call Michael Turner, Superintendent of the Missouri State Highway Patrol. Syed Graham represented the very best of the force, was respected by co-workers and the community, and was unwavering in his commitment to helping others. On Monday, Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe denied clemency for Shockley. Mr. Shockley has received every legal protection afforded to him under the Missouri and United States Constitutions, and his conviction and sentence will remain for his brutal and deliberate crime, said Gov. Kehoe in a released statement. One of Shockley's attorneys, Jeremy Weiss, said he submitted a petition to the U.S. Supreme Court in a last effort to stay the execution. The petition claimed Shockley was being denied his First Amendment rights by not allowing his daughters to serve as spiritual advisors, even though they applied and met specific state requirements. Shockley's death was the 102nd execution in Missouri and the first of 2025. The trooper's target, Carl Dewayne Graham Jr., SGT, Carl Dewayne Graham Jr., was the best of the badge. Described by the Missouri State Highway Patrol as representing the very best of the force, he was known for his unwavering commitment to helping others. In 2005, Graham was just doing his job, a job that tragically put him in the crosshairs of a vengeful man. The investigation that signed Graham's death warrant? It involved Lance Shockley. Graham was investigating Shockley for involuntary manslaughter, a deadly accident where Shockley had fled the scene, leaving his best friend to die. This investigation, this act of upholding the law, became the perceived justification for the ultimate crime. Shockley, according to prosecutors, made a dark decision. He sought out where the trooper lived in Van Buren, Missouri. He planned an ambush. Prosecutors established that Shockley borrowed his grandmother's red Pontiac Grand Am, a vehicle seen near Graham's home on the day of the killing. And then he waited for hours. A dedicated officer, returning home from duty, expecting safety. Instead, he was met with a calculated, deadly trap. In March 2005, as SGT Graham exited his patrol vehicle, the first shot rang out. Shockley allegedly struck Graham with a rifle shot a .243 caliber round, which immediately severed the trooper's spinal cord. This catastrophic injury sent Graham crashing to the ground, fracturing his skull. He was down, incapacitated, but the assault didn't end there. The killer approached the defenseless officer and executed the final chilling act of vengeance, a shotgun blast to the face and shoulder. A gratuitous, brutal finale. Investigators immediately tied evidence to Shockley. He owned a .243 caliber rifle, and most damningly, .243 caliber rounds were recovered from Graham's body. Further evidence, bullet fragments, was found on the property of Shockley's uncle. These fragments, the prosecution claimed, matched the rounds that killed the trooper. The prosecution also noted that Shockley had inquired about where Graham lived before the killing and had attempted to dispose of a box of .243 caliber ammunition around the time of the murder. For the state, the picture was clear: motive, means, and forensic ties. Lance Shockley hunted and murdered a dedicated state trooper because the trooper was investigating him. The circumstantial case and the missing link. But the defense has always maintained that the evidence was not what the state claimed. Shockley's conviction, they argued, was built entirely on circumstantial evidence. The murder weapons, the rifle and the shotgun, were never found. His attorney, Jeremy Weiss, publicly stated that the state's case had no direct evidence connecting Shockley to the actual killing. He even pointed out that there were disagreements between the ballistics experts hired by the prosecution. A deep fracture in the state's key evidence. They painted a picture of a man targeted due to a prior, unrelated legal issue and convicted on an imperfect web of circumstantial connections. It's a core tenet of justice: doubt. And Shockley's team argued that doubt persisted for 2 decades. This is the complex, unyielding reality of capital punishment. It doesn't heal the wound, but it closes the chapter on the man who inflicted the pain. 20 years of court dates, appeals, and uncertainty finally resolved in one final act of state justice.